Anyway,
All
yeah.
right, listen, I got
What's
20
up?
minutes
Yeah,
that
go
I
ahead.
need to pick your brain about three things, okay, before I forget. Number one, uh, what are your thoughts on Elon Musk? The reason I ask is because I saw that video that you had with the conservative panel the other day, and you kind of dunked on him a little bit about his free speech takes. I have a really good friend who is like the ultra like high priest of the Elon cult. Now, I think his political takes suck, but what are your thoughts about him?
Elon Musk to me is exactly like Jordan Peterson. I think in some ways Elon Musk is legitimately like one of the coolest and potentially one of the most influential people in U.S. history. And in other ways, he's like so unbelievably fucking cringe that I wish he would just like
Oh,
stop everything.
no, I hear you. So it's funny you say that. So so what kind of triggered this was like immediately I was just looking on Twitter ahead of this meeting and I saw that he just fired a dude who like publicly criticized him on Twitter. He
Nice.
was talking about which obviously has the right to do, right? CEO, but it's just kind of funny and everyone's dunking on him like, dude, you're supposedly this free speech absolutist and yet in one situation after another, you're clearly violating that principle.
A little bit.
Um,
It's the problem is he needed to be really careful. See, he doesn't. It's funny because now there's areas where I have more experience than like these like major media billionaire figures, so I see what's happening. He needed to be more careful in caveating what he was talking about. Like you can still be a free speech absolutist and like fire your employees that are shit talking you on Twitter. Like I think those are fine. Like you can have a platform that's like we're gonna like be all about free speech, we're gonna get made for hate speech, but like you can't have people impersonating each other. You can't have people like shit talking their fucking bosses on Twitter. But like he just didn't caveat anything at all. So of course,
well,
yeah,
to
he's gonna come
me,
up as
but
unhinged.
by definition, by adding caveats, you are not a free speech absolutist, which is actually the frustrating thing because so many right wingers present themselves, and we've talked about this before, as free speech absolutists, when in fact nobody's a free speech absolutist. You do clearly make exceptions, be it like
Well,
impersonation or hate speech or criticizing your boss publicly.
the
If you have to put
easiest one would be like because there are people that consider like here's my guess: 99% of people that consider themselves free speech absolutists probably wouldn't be okay with people watching child porn. So I don't think that's what
right.
free speech absolutism means. I think it means something a little different. But
Well, I think that people who are that let's switch absolutist with enthusiast. Let's make a substitution there. I do think you have an obligation to clarify to your millions or tens of thousands or tens of millions of deranged followers that actually no guys we do expect as a functioning society that we do put limitations on free speech and everybody agrees with that and if you want to pretend that you don't agree with it you're an idiot, which unfortunately I feel like conservatives very often do pretend. Like any time that a leftist or a progressive or a liberal enforces free speech in a way that they don't like, they cry foul. They say, oh, you're violating the free speech principle, but they do it all the time.
yeah,
So
of
I,
course,
I
yeah.
agree that caveat has to be done.
Yeah,
But it's
like I
funny you
said, for
mentioned,
most like political principles, most people don't actually give a fuck about. It's just whatever makes their side stronger. Like I
sure.
said, where was the conservative outcry? I'll never forget this. Okay, this is like a huge black pill moment for me. Where was the conservative outcry when Cernovich canceled James Gunn for tweets that were like 11 years old? Like,
Yeah, I forgot that because initially a lot of people were blaming the radical left for digging up like
yeah,
tweets about guns, like more salacious tweets from like 10 years ago because
yeah.
that was actually a right-wing campaign to gotcha gun. But it's funny you mentioned Peterson. So that was that was about an hour ago. I was listening to Peterson. He had an interview with Pierce Morgan, and I am an admitted like recovering, penitent Peterson fan. I used to like the guy quite a bit. I read his book and 12 Rules for Life and recommended others read it too. And then as time went on, like I am profoundly embarrassed that I was ever a fan of this guy because he used to be considered like a credible scholar in the field of psychology. Like he has like a gazillion citations and references. But anytime he steps outside that, like his views on climate change are dog shit. His political commentary is
Dog shit, yeah.
terrible.
I don't know how
Terrible.
this is like it's the phenomenon that I describe where it's like there's like two different ways that people can go. So like if I'm really good, I got really good at StarCraft. I know a decent bit about music. So my assumption is going to be that for like anything that I'm not 100% well versed on, there's probably a lot of shit that's like I couldn't even fathom that I don't know, right? Because there's so much to know about other things. Like why wouldn't there be about everything else?
What do you call it? Epistemic humility? Like,
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, that's good. That's a very fancy way of saying that. Epistemic humility.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
But then there are other people out here who like they get really good at one thing and then they think they're the master of the universe. And I think like Peterson falls under that. Elon Musk definitely falls under that. And it's cringe as fuck. It's pretty sad seeing it with Jordan Peterson. It's really sad seeing it with Musk because I legitimately do believe that, and nobody's going to give him credit for this anymore just because everything's happened. I do believe that Elon Musk is probably one of, I would say even historically at this point, one of the most important inventors in U.S. history. Like, I know that people like don't care about it as much, but watching U.S. astronauts launching again from the United States it seems like that only happened because Elon Musk decided to throw money in that direction, and that is so cool. Watching the rockets land because he wanted to make that company, that was so cool. After we retired our shuttle program, not having to rely on Russia or China to launch astronauts into place, that's so awesome. And I do think that he probably gets a lot of credit for jump-starting the interest in electric cars because the initial idea was incredibly fucking stupid. That I'm going to put so many charging stations around the United States that people are going to be driving my electric car around and I don't even have a real car company. That's an insanely dumb idea, and it actually is like kind of working. So yeah, I mean, he gets a ton of credit in my mind for those two things, for finally getting a space program back in the United States again, and doing the electric car thing and really jumpstarting interest around the world for it. But god damn, everything else he does is like Jesus Christ, it's so fucking dog shit.
It is. So for context, like I didn't pay close attention to Elon Musk until, believe it or not, Iron Man 2. And then, of course, all the comparisons were made. Like his cameo in Iron Man 2 were like, oh, Elon Musk is the real-life Tony Stark. And then, again, I just kind of threw that in the back burner. Obviously, I saw like headlines and read articles, and there was footage, correlating him with the renewed interest of NASA and, like other parts of the American public in a new space race or space exploration, stuff like that. So I have no problem giving him credit. Now, I tend to be agnostic on Musk because outside of him leveraging his political influence for genuinely terrible opinions, he's just not that's not my area of interest. So I feel like you can cherry pick information. Like Cody Johnson of Some More News did this entire polemic video, and I like Some More News, but my buddy who is an Elon stan, he's like, oh, this is such bullshit. He was way more involved with correcting and fine tuning and improving upon electric vehicles. It wasn't just that he came along and funded it. His enthusiasm, his work ethic, his instinct for investments, that they're unparalleled. He deserves a lot of the press that he gets. And I think David Pakman feels the same way. So these are people that I respect, and they seem to have some respect for him. You do too on some level. But my question is, do you think he's bought his own press and that he's just trolling at this point? Or do you think a lot of the political he gave that tweet right before the election where he's like, listen, I've always voted Democrat, but because I believe in shared power and the balance of power, I'm encouraging every independent mind thinker to vote.
Yeah, vote conservatives. Here's the reality, and it's insane to say this because I used to maybe in 5 years maybe I'll think something different. I don't actually think you have to be all that smart to be really successful in life or to be even a billionaire. I think that what you need to be incredibly competent in one area, and you need to have the right opportunities present themselves. And if that happens,
savant?
No, not a savant. Most savants probably won't become billionaires, right? Gotcha. Because savants are people that artistically dedicate their time to some math or engineering thing, probably not business. I don't know very many business savants, right? Because I think that as long as you're in the right place at the right time, you've got the right capital available to you, and you're incredibly competent at something, not savant level, but very competent at something, I think you can become a multimillionaire or a billionaire. But I don't think it requires. I used to think that at some point, man, if you're a billionaire, you probably are just on another level in terms of the stuff that you know about the world. But Elon is that. There are so many examples. Trump is another example of oh no, not it. Trump is an idiot in a surprising amount of areas. I would have thought at the very least Trump would know geography or something, or some kind of geopolitical stuff because he does business deals around the world. But he truly just doesn't know much about anything. And I think Elon is similar. He just doesn't know much about a lot of things that I would expect him to as somebody that markets themselves as a fucking engineer of the world.
Well, it's interesting. Like, and again, I think we talked about this with Trump before. I've never found him particularly competent, but like, people talk about President Biden's cognitive decline, which I do think there's some of that involved just because of just the
Yeah,
aging
of course,
process.
sure. He's at least getting a
Same
little
thing,
slower, yeah.
right? Same thing for Trump. Trump's only like 3 or 4 years younger than Biden. And he's an old man too. And if you go back and you listen to interviews that Trump did in the early 2000s, and he is a much more fluid,
For
much
sure.
more competent speaker by far.
Yeah, listening
His
to him
vocab-
testify in front of Congress for shit. Yeah, he's a very, very, very
Right.
different speaker, for sure.
But yeah, no, I agree that Trump is he presents himself as like a buffoon, and like any competence he does have seems to be like well hidden. But do you think that Musk is trolling at this point when he's encouraging people to, like, that's why everybody, so a lot of his stands say, okay, he doesn't actually believe this stupid shit, he's just trolling. And I don't know if that makes it better because he's being really irresponsible with his influence if he doesn't like, for a guy who's such like a rationalist utilitarian, which is how he presents himself, if he doesn't genuinely believe the shit that he says, I think you could almost make an argument that that's worse, because a lot of his 112 million Twitter supporters do believe the stupid shit that he says
He's
go out.
He's not trolling. That's a huge cope.
Okay. You're pretty sure it's sincere?
1,000,000% it's sincere. That's a huge cope to pretend that like unless he literally bought Twitter as a troll.
Gotcha.
Which
Yeah.
even him doesn't have the money to troll that hard.
I was going to ask, what about that too? Because again, you follow like markets and stuff like that so much more than I do. But like, everyone's saying that this was he apparently said on a call to shareholders or whatever that like Twitter is not too far away from bankruptcy. And I don't follow like how like profitable social media companies are or are supposed to be. Like, some people are making the case that it's really not a profit churning enterprise. It's more of just like an advertising agency. And he cost like Eli Lilly billions of dollars by allowing that pay for verification checkmark thing, and somebody made a fake account and cost Eli Lilly billions of dollars because you saw that, right, where they said that insulin was going to be free and it was a fake account. And
that whole story is fake, by the way, but I know what you're talking about.
What?
That
It's
tweet,
fake?
yeah, the tweet didn't cost them money. The tweet was made a whole day before, and that entire sector of the market had dropped, and there was a reason why. I think they'd either canceled the manufacturing or some huge line of like stuff they were working on. The idea that tweet was the thing that made that stock price change was completely not true. It was a totally
No
fake
shit.
Yeah,
Well,
I know, yeah,
glad we fact checked on that because the timing was just like ridiculous.
Sure.
But anyway, so like the fact that he says that Twitter is nearing bankruptcy, does that call into question his business acumen? Because that's the other part of his reputation that's pretty high. It's not just that he's this genius inventor and engineer. He's supposedly, he's the richest man in the world, so he's supposedly like
bankruptcy.
a really shrewd businessman.
What is your understanding of bankruptcy?
Well, my understanding is that there can be tactical bankruptcies, but I just don't understand why you would buy a social media company and then like publicly announce to the world within weeks that it's nearing the edge of it. Like, you think there could be a strategy involved there?
Oh my god, dude. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm talking a little bit of shit here because business structures might be a little bit different. But like, let's say theoretically, I saw that there was a lot of like potential in some company, and I purchased that company, and I found out that this company has a lot of debt on the books. But I think I can like turn it around. But like, if all this debt stays, like it's gonna become insolvent, and then it's gonna just like dissolve. I might just file bankruptcy on the company to get rid of some of the debt or to get some protection. Because that's what bankruptcy is. What bankruptcy is you going to the bank and saying, "Hey, listen, we got to work something out because I'm not going to the companies are going to come and steal all my shit if I don't get like some kind of help here, right? That's what bankruptcy protection is. That's in the bank to like protect your assets while you figure out what the fuck you're going to do. So bankruptcies can be like a financial tool that companies use. It doesn't just mean like, oh, I'm out of money.
Right? No, I agree that I mean, I do know enough to know that. A lot of businessmen are able to make like tactical bankruptcies to stave off greater
or even
losses.
Technically every bankruptcy is tactical. Every single bankruptcy is.
True.
Yeah, because like otherwise you just like have all your shit repoed.
It would be infinitely worse.
Yeah,
right.
And then you're just fucked. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say before I go here, actually one other thing about Elon, he apparently picked a fight with a Democratic Senator, Ed Markley, because Markley would just like made this relatively anodyne complaint about either the fake account thing or the ease with which fake accounts are able to get verification. And Musk was like, well, hey, why do you have a mask in your profile picture? So like he trolled him. And then the Democratic senator like fired back. He's like, listen, blah, 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 Twitter, your companies are, in flux right now, or they're not working right. You better fix it or Congress will. And so a lot of people are like freaking out that between President Biden saying that Musk should be investigated, his connections with, foreign powers, and now you have a prominent Democratic senator who sits on like some sort of finance committee, basically indicating that they're going to investigate Musk in the next couple of years. Do you think that that's likely, that Democrats will go after Musk more openly?
I think that ever since the Facebook Cambridge Analytica shit in the last election, I think all Congress and all the social media companies are very, very, very fucking paranoid about like election interference. I think it's a really big deal. Hold on.
Sure.
Destiny conflated Chapter 7 with Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The rules aren't the same. Ownership almost always loses all equity in corporate bankruptcy. First of all, I don't even know if corporations can file Chapter 7 or Chapter 11s. I'm pretty sure those are generally reserved for individuals. Businesses might be able to. I'm not conflating the two. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is generally where you declare like a total loss and you lose everything except for like your house and your car. And a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, personally, is usually a restructure of debt, I think. It's either Chapter 11 or Chapter 13. However, you absolutely can file bankruptcy as a corporation for restructuring debt and doing other things. Just because you file bankruptcy doesn't mean that you lose every single fucking thing and it's gone. Otherwise, businesses would just dissolve and fuck off. What do you mean? Like, of course you can file bankruptcies for financial restructuring purposes or whatever. There are companies that have filed bankruptcy and then come out better afterwards. I don't think that bankruptcy necessarily means every single investor loses all of their fucking equity. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if business can file Chapter 7, but Chapter 7 for individual is that's where you liquidate basically all of your shit and then you're fucking gone forever. But like, I'm pretty sure there are more bankruptcies available, but I don't know all of the different corporate bankruptcies either. Sorry.